just like the Tyler Hall signing, this is when you have to lower your expectations with these one-year deals. Depth moves, maybe they can turn out to be something, but lower those expectations a little bit. So we'll talk about that. And then I want to talk a little Jalen Hurts today, because some of you who follow me on Twitter may have seen a tweet I put out yesterday about Jalen's running. I know there's some people who want him to run less so that he stays healthy, but when you look at the numbers, it doesn't make sense for him to run less. So we'll talk about that as well. But let's get a little roll call on this. I was going to say Football Friday, but I guess NCAA Tournament Friday. I see Bry Guy checking in. My man, Wine Niners Wine. Always here promoting me and the show, so I appreciate you. David Laprati Jr., Adams Exploits, Flexing and Stepping in the house. Jason A-Team, Mike Fittery, Decoy Gaming, IBH. Niners all damn day is in the house with a little Big Bills. Mr. Rudy Poo, RJ Ramirez, Hutch, Terry Hayes, Jared Ford, Soul Vane. We got a lot of people checking in. We're also live on TikTok. We're simulcast across JAKIB Sports and my YouTube channel, so make sure you're following everywhere. But let's jump in. I see people still talking about the Hassan Reddick situation. We'll talk a little bit about it, but let's jump into the NCAA tournament to start. Now, I said yesterday that I wasn't a huge fan of March Madness, that I don't agree that it's the greatest time of the year. I know there's a lot of people who do think that way, but I have to be honest, I really enjoyed watching it yesterday. I watched a bunch of games. I watched that big upset. Oakland upsets Kentucky. What a game. I'm drawing a blank on the kid's name, hitting 10 threes, but an amazing story. He was at a D2 school, entered the transfer portal, only had one offer. It was Oakland. He goes and he drops 10 threes yesterday, and Kentucky gets upset. And then you start looking at the University of Kentucky and John Calipari. The guy hasn't done anything over the last 5 years. They have one NCAA tournament victory in 5 seasons at Kentucky. That is just terrible. When you're getting the type of players that Kentucky gets year after year, and you have one NCAA tournament win in 5 freaking years. So I know there's fans calling for him to get fired, so I looked a little bit deeper. If Kentucky was to fire him, his buyout is $35 million. $35 million if they try to move on from John Calipari. And then the best part of Calipari is they interview him after the game. And talk about throwing your players under the bus. Oh, they miss shots they don't usually miss. Blaming the players. Maybe you got to look in the mirror, man, because these aren't the same players you've had for the last 5 seasons. So how do you only have one NCAA tournament win in 5 years? So stop blaming the players. Maybe take a look in the mirror. So that was interesting. Jared Ford, terrible in his Charles Barkley voice. But yeah, real interesting that Kentucky gets upset by Oakland. I knew that busted a lot of people's brackets. I had them going to the Elite 8, so it doesn't mess me up as much. I picked a lot of upsets yesterday I got right. Duquesne upset BYU. I had that one, surprisingly. And then Dayton. And I have Dayton going far. Dayton almost loses to Nevada. They were down 17 points in that game, and they go on a 17-0 run to tie it and then eventually win it. So I see Bobby Red Zone on TikTok saying Kentucky can't fight through screens to save their life. But don't you think that's coaching, Bobby? I mean, when you have a guy like John Calipari who's supposed to be that great of a coach, that he gets a lifetime contract from Kentucky, shouldn't he be able to coach these guys up to be able to fight through screens? So I'm into it, though. I'm watching it this year. So we got more games today. It is exciting. You got stuff to watch all the time. And I got YouTube TV. So I don't know if like Xfinity or Verizon Fios does this, but the cool thing about YouTube TV is they put up the quad box. So you could watch all 4 games at the same time. and you can pick which one you hear the audio from. And then if you want to zoom in on a game, you just click on it, and then it takes you to that game. And then if you hit the back button, it goes back to the 4. So I don't know if the other cable networks do that, but it's pretty cool being able to watch it on YouTube. YouTube TV, I mean. But anyway, so that's it for NCAA tournament talk. Flyers with a big win, not a big win, a big point last night, I should say. A big point last night. So they had to go down to Carolina. Carolina's got a really good team. Could be the first round matchup if the Flyers are able to sneak into these playoffs. But they go down to Carolina. They're down 2-1 in the third. They get a big goal to tie it up. And then they go to overtime. They lose in overtime, but that point was a crucial point. There's only 12 games left to play. They're still sitting at that third spot in the Metro. They're now 4 points up on the Capitals, but the Capitals still have 2 games in hand. I don't know when they're going to catch up. They pretty much have been 2 games behind in games played for the last few weeks. And they're 6 points up now on the Islanders with only a game in hand. So that is good. So things are looking pretty good, but then Coots gets benched again. Sean Couturier was benched again yesterday. So I don't know how I feel about this. I don't think I like the fact that you're embarrassing your captain. I think there was a better way to do this. The guy's battling back from a serious back injury. If you thought he maybe needed a couple days rest, why couldn't they just sit him down and say, look, he's battling back from a back injury. We want him to be conditioned for the final stretch run. So we're going to sit Coots down. We think it'll be good for him to rest a couple of games. Why do you have to embarrass him? Why will Torts not talk about it? See, I just don't I think you could have done this in a way where you're not embarrassing your captain. You're not embarrassing a guy who's been with the team, who does give it his all. Like, that's the thing for me. If you're going to bench a guy, usually you're benching a guy. You're making him a healthy scratch because he's doing something wrong. He's not giving full effort. Now, if it's a younger guy and he's just not playing well, that's fine. But you're talking about your captain. You're talking about a guy who is giving it his all. I think they could have done this in a way not to embarrass him publicly, and that's what I don't like about it. But this is Tortorella, so you got to take the good with the bad. Torts has his team playing better than anybody could have expected. So I guess you got to take the good with the bad, but I don't love the idea of embarrassing your captain. So Fly Guys are back in action tomorrow against Boston, then against the Florida Panthers on Sunday. So they got a couple tough games coming up. I'll be in the building on Sunday. I'm looking forward to that one. So 6 o'clock start on Sunday. They play 1 o'clock tomorrow because I'll be on the Fanatic leading you all the way up to the game from 9 to 12:30 before they go over to the broadcast for the Fly Guys. And then Sunday, 6 o'clock start. But let's talk about the Eagles. Because like I said, Johnny Marks will be joining the show in about 10 minutes. So I want to talk a little Eagles. So yesterday, the Philadelphia Eagles made another free agent acquisition. They signed wide receiver Paris Campbell. He's 26 years old. He'll be 27 in July. And you could see what the Eagles are trying to do here. They're still looking for that third wide receiver. Who's going to be that wide receiver 3? We've been hearing for 3 years now, Quez Watkins. Quez Watkins adds so much to this team. Well, finally, it looks like the Philadelphia Eagles have realized. Finally, they've realized that Quez Watkins is not the answer at wide receiver 3. They realized that midway through the season last year. That's why they brought in Julio Jones. Unfortunately, though, Julio Jones, 34 years old, didn't do much last year. In 11 games, he had 11 catches, 74 yards, 3 touchdowns. But Quez Watkins wasn't the answer. And we kept hearing about his speed. Well, what bothered me was if he was a guy who literally had the speed to take the lid off of a defense like we kept hearing from Sirianni over and over and over again, well, then how come you saw his average yards per reception drop so significantly? Quez had a 15-yard average per reception his first 2 seasons, and then that drops all the way to 9.5 last season. So it looks like they're finally ready to say goodbye to Quez. He's a free agent. He hasn't signed anywhere yet, but they're finally ready to say goodbye. So they brought in Devontae Parker early in free agency, and now they signed Paris Campbell, who was in Indianapolis when Sirianni was there. And Sirianni did coach up the wide receivers. We know Paris Campbell was a guy the Eagles were interested in the year they took J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. But I'm not ecstatic about this move. I know some people are, Paris Campbell, the kid's going to be a stud. Well, he had a really down year last year in New York. But could that have been because of who he was playing with? So in 5 seasons, Paris Campbell has played 44 games. In 5 years, he only has 117 catches, 1,087 yards, and 5 touchdowns. He was a second-round draft pick out of Ohio State in 2019 by the Indianapolis Colts. And I see Mr. Rudy Poo saying, stud, who's saying that, Bill? Twitter, man. Twitter. People are losing their minds over these picks. Tyler Hall, Paris Campbell, Oren Burks. People are talking about how great these guys are. So Paris Campbell, look, low risk. I'm okay with the move, year move, but I still would like to see them upgrade that wide receiver 3 position because last year in New York, and now you could attribute this to maybe playing with bad quarterbacks. Obviously, Tommy Cutlets, Daniel Jones, but he only had 20 catches last year for 104 yards. And then he was benched the final 5 games of the season. So he couldn't even get on the field. The lack of weapons that they had in New York, Paris Campbell couldn't even get on the field last year. However, maybe something to be a little excited about. In 2022, he had his best year ever in the NFL with the Indianapolis Colts. He played all 17 games. He had 63 catches, 623 yards, 3 touchdowns. Not bad production. If you could get that kind of production from your third wide receiver, that'd be great. I just don't know what this guy's going to bring. Obviously, couldn't make an impact on a bad Giants offense. Well, what can he do here? So Eagles sign him. He can also return kicks if there's even going to be kick returns this year. We'll see. The competition committee meets to see how they're going to fix that mess. It's turned into a ceremonious play at this point. So they got Paris Campbell. They got Devontae Parker. So we'll see what shakes at the wide receiver 3 position. But Paris Campbell, not a bad move. Low risk move, bringing him in on a year. But what does that mean? But I want to talk about Jalen Hurts for a second. Because one of the most common off-season discussions, and I'll talk to Johnny Marks about this too, but one of the most common off-season discussions about Jalen Hurts is always, should he run less? Should he run more? Should they try to make him more of a pocket passer so he stays healthy? So I really dove into the numbers yesterday. And I got 3 words, man. Run, Jalen, run. They should not be stopping Jalen Hurts from running the football. And if you needed any more evidence, listen to these numbers. So in Jalen Hurts' career, he started 56 games. He's got 51 regular season starts, 5 playoff starts. In 56 games, when he has 14 or more carries, when Jalen Hurts has 14 or more carries, he's 10-0, undefeated. When he has more than 10 carries, they're 16-4. And then you look, in his career, he only has 20 losses in his career as a starting quarterback. 16 of those 20 losses, 16 of them are when he has 10 or less carries. If he gets more than 14 carries, undefeated, 10-0. More than 10 carries, 16-4. 10 or less carries, 20-16. 16 to 20 losses. And then I went and looked even further deep. In 2022, his MVP caliber season, he played 15 regular season games, 3 playoff games. He averaged 11 carries a game. That's more than 10. So no surprise he's in the MVP discussion. Last year, over the course of 18 games, 17 regular season, 1 playoff, he only averaged 8.8. But let's look at the deeper numbers. During their 10-1 start, Jalen Hurts had 10.4 carries a game. Over their 1-6 finish, 6.3 carries a game. To me, it's a no-brainer. He needs to run the damn football. I know they want to make him a pocket passer. That's not the answer. Just look at the numbers. We now have a 3-year history of Jalen Hurts as a starter. And when he runs the football, they win. When he doesn't run the football, they're about a 500 team. 10 or less carries, they have a winning percentage of .555. Not bad. But 10 or more carries, an 800 win percentage. 14 or more carries, a 1,000 win percentage. So he's got to run the damn ball. Now, I know the flip side of that argument. I know when we talk to Johnny Marks, I have a feeling what he's going to talk about is, well, what about injuries? Because you look at 2021, he averaged about 9.3 carries a game. He hurts his ankle. Only plays 15 games that year. And then the 1 playoff game. 2022, averaged 11 carries a game. Well, he hurts his shoulder in Chicago. Misses 2 games. But then last year, stays healthy all 17 games and the 1 playoff game, and he only ran the ball about 8.8 carries a game. But here's my argument to that. Who cares if he's healthy for the whole season if that doesn't result in wins and it doesn't result in going to the Super Bowl? So is the point of the season to just have Jalen Hurts healthy to be able to take the final snap of the season? Or is the point of the season to be able to give yourself the best chance to hold up that Lombardi trophy? So for me, I'm not trying to pull the reins in on Jalen Hurts running. This is what the guy does. This is what makes him very tough to stop in the NFL. So this year, I know we were worried about his knee. He didn't look the same. He didn't look as explosive about midway through the season. But I think if this Philadelphia Eagles team is going to do anything in 2024, they got to take the reins off of Jalen Hurts. They got to let him run the football. Now, it'll help having a guy like Saquon Barkley back there with him. But let the guy run. The proof is there. 10-0 when Jalen has 14 or more carries. 10-0. Now, I see Slagger saying he disagrees. He needs to run smart. Chuck Hutton, none of this matters if the D sucks. Probably right. But when you look at the numbers, and I know some people are saying, oh, these are just analytics. Numbers sometimes can tell you how things have played out. How do you explain that Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles are 10-0 when he has 14 or more carries? How do you explain that? So he needs to run the football. So we'll talk more about that with Johnny Marks coming up after the break. And I see Box Up Vinny saying he's been shouting this from the mountaintop since week 1. It took you to offseason to figure out running the ball is what we should be doing. Well, no, at Box Up Vinny, if you follow me, I've been talking about this for a while. I was mad before last season because there was a lot of people talking about how, he needs to pull back on the running. So Slagger 57, your idea is run him 14 times a game and they win. What I'm saying is when he has more than 10 carries, they're 16-4. They have a winning percentage of over 800. 16 of his 20 losses come when he's got less than 10 carries a game. So, yeah, what I'm saying is run Jalen Hurts. Make defenses have to guard your quarterback as well. Make them actually have to guard 11 on 11. Because usually what happens when your quarterback's not a threat to run, it's 11 on 10. You don't have to really worry about the quarterback. Make them worry about the quarterback run. But we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to be joined by my man, one and only Johnny Marks. Stay tuned.
Imagine for a moment that you went to work today and when you came home, you were catastrophically injured. Your life and your family's life. That's what happened to union construction worker Mike Little.
I was scared of what the end was going to be, but to be 100% honest with you, I knew I was going to be all right just by talking with Brian. In my heart, I just knew everything was going to be all right.
Call the firm and find out why they say, "We got this." Call 215-458-2222.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports, and certainly the easiest when you're watching the NBA. And the NBA playoffs are almost here, and you can win money making picks. What are you waiting for? Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com and use the promo code WIN. An Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN. Get ready for the NBA and get ready for the NBA playoffs. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES. Eagles.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back in to the Philly Sports Power Hour. Getting ready for the weekend. And what better way to get ready for the weekend than bringing on my man, the one and only Johnny Marks, joining the Power Hour. What's up, John?
There's not a better way to get ready for the weekend than me. Well, I would argue that, but thank you. Thank you, Bill. What's up?
How you feeling, my brother?
I was just actually sorting laundry. I lost track of time. I knew I was supposed to be on with you about this time, and I was sorting a mountain of laundry. So that's how I'm doing.
Doing the laundry. That's folding the laundry is the chore I think I hate the most. Maybe doing the dishes, but I don't know. Folding the laundry is always a pain in the ass, man.
So I do dishes because my wife does. She will pile the dishes on top of the other dishes in the drying rack, or in the dishwasher. She's completely unorganized. So there'll be dishes scattered all over the place, and you can't fit as many dishes in there. So I take command of that. She doesn't allow me to fold the laundry. I sort it and I put it in the washer and the dryer. Gotcha. I'm not allowed to fold it.
Gotcha. So now, talking about the dishes, we just got something that's a game changer in our house. The magnet that goes on the front of the dishwasher that says either clean or dirty.
Oh.
So you flip it, but God forbid you forget.
You have to remember to flip it. Right.
Yeah, if you forget to flip it, and you're like, wait, these don't look clean. But it can help. It does help because you ever open it in the dishwasher, you're like, I don't remember. Are these clean or are these dirty?
It'll smell like it's been ran, but then you look at the dishes and you're like, I don't think this has been run.
Yeah, so you need the magnet. You need the magnet. So let me ask you, NCAA tournament started yesterday. Are you a March Madness type of guy?
Once the tournament starts, yeah. I probably start paying attention to during the conference tournaments. But man, I haven't watched college basketball regular season in a long time. It doesn't help that the teams around here aren't really good anymore. 2 straight years of Big 5 teams not making the tournament. So really, like, I'm paying attention like everybody else, kind of watching Sports Center or whatever. But then once it starts, it's like I've been watching all year long, and that's what I was doing yesterday.
Yeah, same. And now we got a little competition going at the Fanatic. You know, I'm down at the Fanatic now.
Right.
And after the first day, your boy's sitting in first place. Now, obviously, things can change, but I'm sitting at the top.
So, did you not have Kentucky? Because I know a lot of people had Kentucky going to the Final Four. They were a sexy pick at the end.
I had them going to the Elite 8, which hurts, but so my Final Four is still intact, and I picked a couple upsets yesterday that I hit on. Hold on, we're talking about the dishes and the laundry, and my fiance just poked her head in here and gave me a look, so she probably knows because I'm like, I hate doing the laundry. She's like, yeah, you're damn right you hate it. So anyway, all right, so NCAA tourney. Let's talk real quick, though, about Kentucky because I don't follow it that much, just like you don't follow it, but I follow it enough to know that Calipari hasn't done anything in the last 5 seasons, and this guy has, a lifetime contract? I just saw he's going to have, if they try to buy him out, he's owed $35 million. What do you think about that whole situation?
Yeah, not bad. I saw that he talked after the game last night, and he right after losing a game like that, he's shell-shocked, and he's talking about, well, like, what do I do going forward? You don't make decisions on what you're going to do as a program right after a game. But some of the things that he said was interesting, which was like, look at the freshmen they have, look at the sophomores they have. They have young teams because they recruit so well. They're getting younger players. But then you look at some of these other teams, in particular last night, they're playing. There's a 24-year-old that was mowing down threes last night. So sometimes you're facing a team, in particular in the tournament, you're facing a veteran team where you have grad students that are there playing 1 year because they want to play a year. You know, the NILs have changed everything so much in college basketball. I was hearing, I heard an interview with Jeff Goodman. Now he's of Stadium, but longtime ESPN college basketball writer. And he was talking about how guys like Tom Izzo of Michigan State, they didn't want to buy anybody in the NIL, in the NILs, in the transfer portal. And you saw the team that Michigan State had this year. And it's like, if you don't adapt, and this goes for college football as well, and it's probably one of the reasons why Nick Saban wanted to get out.
Yeah,
I saw Saban, and he did an interview with ESPN.com, and he had said that after they had lost in the semifinal, that the kids are just different now. They're asking, how much playing time am I going to get next year? How much money am I going to get? Essentially, all these players are on 1-year contracts. They can transfer anywhere after a year. Yeah. So if they're on a 1-year contract and they can get paid, now they're out there shopping themselves around. So if they say, hey, if I'm not a starter or you're not guaranteeing me playing time, I'm going to go look elsewhere where I can start and I get paid more money. Changes everything.
Yeah, they got to step in. I'm happy that the NCAA doesn't have the control over these kids like they used to, but they got to do something because it's really like the Wild West now with the NILs and the transfer portal. So they got to do something to fix that, but we'll see. But let's talk some Eagles. Let's talk some Eagles for a second. So you and I haven't had a chance to talk, I don't think, since any of these free agent moves have been made. So what do you think so far at the start of this offseason? Because there's still a long ways to go.
Well, the first wave is it has done nothing but really encourage Eagles fans, because if you're, I would say, an average Eagle fan was extremely disappointed with the way this season ended and probably still had a bad taste in their mouth as we entered free agency. I know that's how I felt. I hate the Eagles, fire Howie Roseman, but I was also like, right? Like, oh man, the defense is old. They need players on defense, and like Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown. And then very quickly, Howie Roseman, in the course of a week, took that bad taste out of people's mouths, and now you actually feel encouraged again that this team, maybe they are at the top of the NFC, and I believe they are. And you know, Howie has shown that in a short period of time, he can take an existing roster and he can tweak it and he can add to it easily. And it's what he did. I don't believe Saquon Barkley is necessarily a boom or bust signing. It's a 2-year contract. It could be longer, depending on how he produces. He probably gets a new contract, or they redo the numbers after 2 years. But I think Saquon Barkley is going to be fine. I think he's going to be good. But if nothing else, what Howie Roseman showed was they believe they're a Super Bowl team. The window is wide open. And on offense, adding Saquon Barkley is just to get Jalen Hurts back to the Jalen Hurts we saw in 2022. Because if we don't see Jalen Hurts second half of the season 2022 or Jalen Hurts first half of the season 2023 in some of those games, Eagles aren't going to the Super Bowl. They're not winning the Super Bowl. So they still have a little bit of work to do. I'll be curious to see what they do in the draft. They still need some corner help. But so far, so good. Howie has really, really helped the team. And he still has cap room left. They're still flexible and have extra draft picks. They have that extra second round. So far, so great for Howie and the Eagles.
And I want to talk more about the defense in a second, but you bring up Jalen Hurts and trying to get him back to the 2022 form that he was. I had you on my other show, Legal Hands to the Face show, before last season. And one of the things we talked about, because you had been talking about this on the radio, was that you wanted to see Jalen Hurts run less because you wanted him to stay healthy. So I went and looked at the numbers, and before you joined the show, I was looking at this because there are still people talking about, should Jalen become more of a pocket passer? Should he get back to running? So I want to give you some stats that I just looked up. When Jalen Hurts has more than 14 carries, 14 or more carries, the Eagles are 10-0.
Wow.
When he has more than 10 carries, they're 16-4. He's only had 20 losses in his career. 16 of those 20 losses have come when Jalen gets 10 or less carries. And you look at last season when they had that quote-unquote collapse. 10-1, he's averaging over 10 carries a game. 1-6, he's averaging 6 carries a game. So now that you've kind of seen Jalen running the ball in 2022 and Jalen kind of not running as much in 2023, have you changed your opinion about what you want to see from Jalen Hurts?
No, and I would say the devil's in the details. How many of those carries were tush pushes or short yardage situations or whatever? But to your point, the more he was a part of the offense in the running game, the more success that they had as far as winning games. I'll say this, that what you saw the second half of the season last year with them saying, hey, we're going to blitz Jalen Hurts and he's going to struggle with it, that's not going to stop. It's only going to get even more intense. Now, the Eagles need to adjust to that. And last year, Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni on the fly during the season had no adjustment to it.
Yeah.
But the lack of development in the pocket from Jalen Hurts, I don't need Jalen Hurts to be a pocket passer. He's not Eli Manning. I don't need him to be a stick figure and stand in the pocket. That's not what I'm asking to do. But he does need to be more comfortable in the pocket. And the thing that really impressed me in 2022 was how he had a knack of maneuvering around in the pocket, having a good feel for where the pass rush was, and really confidently delivering the ball. Last year, there was no confidence at all. So I guess to your point, Bill, we need to see a confident Jalen Hurts out there. Now, was that because he was injured and he couldn't run? He just didn't have confidence throwing the ball. And I think that was pretty clear when you watched him the second half of last season. So if you want to run him more and you want to make that a part of the offense, that's fine. He's also got to be able to stay healthy.
Yeah.
So he didn't miss games last year because of this knee injury, but everybody agrees that it affected him at least to some extent. So even if you don't miss games, it can still affect your play if you're running. And I think Jalen, and this is also the big thing, I think Jalen wants to run the ball less, because when you look at a quarterback and the progression of a quarterback, normally at each year that you get away from coming into the league, you develop more as a passer and you need to rely on the run less. So I'll be curious to see what they do this year.
And we saw that with Donovan. When Donovan came into the league, he was running the ball a lot more, and then he started to slowly develop into more of this pocket passer who could run. And you see that with Mahomes, too. I mean, Mahomes is so damn good, but not because he has designed runs, but because he can make plays with his legs when things break down. But I'm just hoping Kellen Moore doesn't come in here and try to get Jalen to stop running the football, because I do think they have a lot of success. And you mentioned the tush push. Well, it doesn't look like the tush push is getting banned, which is a good thing, but there's no Jason Kelce now at center to do it. how much do you think the tush push is affected without Kelsey?
Well, we're going to find out, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, Kelsey talked about how he would scream for his life during those tush pushes because of the toll that it took on him.
Yeah,
I think it's a legitimate question. I think that the Eagles are going to be fine with Cam Jurgens coming over and replacing Kelsey. Kelsey, he was still very good last year, but he also wasn't maybe the same player that we had seen in recent years. So I think they're ultimately going to be fine. But as far as the tush push, we really don't know. Now, Kelsey also was undersized for a center, so it's not like that he was this big fat center that you could rely on. And Jurgens is 50 pounds lighter. But I mean, I'll be curious to see because Kellen Moore likes to run the ball. He likes to throw the ball to the backs. I think maybe that also played into it. That they got Saquon Barkley. Kellen Moore might have said, "Hey, I really like him." But here's another reason why I think they signed Saquon Barkley. It gives the fan base some sizzle, right? Yeah. It's a sizzle signing to where the Eagles are going out of character and getting a running back and spending money. I was surprised that they spent top of the market money on Saquon. Howie's notorious for waiting it out a little bit, knowing that the player wants to come here and saying like, all right, your market really didn't develop. So here, we'll give you 2 years and $20 million. That didn't happen with Saquon Barkley. They went out, they made sure they got Saquon Barkley. And I think that was important to the Eagles because of how last season ended. And they wanted to get that bad taste out of fans' mouths. And Saquon's going to help do that, at least before the season starts.
And it worked, man. I mean, you do this. You do a show every day now on your channel. I'm doing this show. I'm doing the weekends on The Fanatic. And it went from fans being over the top negative about the way the season ended. As soon as they made the move for Barkley, everything turned positive. I shouldn't say everything. There's still fans who are not happy, but everything turned positive. They're doing Eagles chants at the Flyers game. You could just see it. People are wearing their Eagles gear again. So it worked in getting that bad taste out of everybody's mouth, and now everybody's excited. But I think something that could maybe bring that bad taste back is going to be depending on what happens with Hassan Reddick. And I know you were on Birds 365 earlier this week, and I agreed 100% with what you said about if this is truly a Super Bowl year, if you're trying to win a Super Bowl, well, why are you going to get rid of arguably your best defensive player? What do you think happens with the Reddick situation? I think he's gone. And the fact that they moved that roster bonus back to April 1st, they're trying to look for a trade. If they want to trade him, fine. All right, then you can trade him. Don't give me a 4th round draft pick for him. You're only getting him. Here's the problem with his value, and I'm sure you've talked about this, Bill, is that he has 1 year left on his contract, and he wants to be paid not like Myles Garrett, but close. He wants $25 million a year. He wants $75, $100 million guaranteed. The top of the line edge rushers, that's what they get. Hassan Reddick's not going to get that. Teams don't want to give Hassan Reddick that money and trade for him and give up a high draft pick. So you have teams that are saying, "Hey, we'll talk to you in free agency, but we're going to trade a 2nd round draft pick and giving you a new contract on top of that. We'll wait. If you want 25 a year, we'll wait and we won't give you anything." Look at Brian Burns. The Giants only gave up, what, a 2nd and a 5th? 2nd and a 5th, and they gave him $150. And that's why they only gave up a 2nd and a 5th, because they knew they had to give him big money. So, and Reddick's older, and I agree with you. If Reddick wants the big money deal that we all think he does, no team. I said, I think best case scenario, they're getting a 3rd and a 5th for Reddick. And I think that's best case scenario. I agree. Yeah, the market hasn't developed. Just doing some reading and talking to some people that I know that work in some of the markets where he's rumored to go. Like, there's just not a big appetite. The market hadn't developed for him. So I'm sure a team would love to say, "Hey, yeah, we'll trade a 4th round draft pick for Hassan Reddick and we'll take on your existing contract." But unless he agrees or like he says, "Okay, I'll come on that existing contract and then we'll talk about a new contract going forward," teams aren't interested in doing that. So if I'm the Eagles, and football is a business and teams go through this every year with players, right? Coaches are used to it. GMs are used to it. Players are used to it. I say, "Hey, Hassan, listen, I understand that you want a new contract. You're going into the final year of your contract. I understand the financials of football. We'll give you a sweetener. Let's give you some playing time incentives. Let's give you double-digit sack incentives. Let's say here's $1 million if you get 10 sacks, right? And sure, I'll spend Jeffrey Lurie's money." They did it with Chris Jones. It got him in the camp. They did it with Saquon. And they promised not to, like, they gave him incentives so he would sign.
The best place for Hassan Reddick to be, if there's not a team willing to give him a new contract, is here. And if he wants to be mad because the Eagles aren't giving him a new contract and he'll go play on his existing contract somewhere else, I just think that's bad. He is their best defensive player, and now this is on the Eagles. The Eagles can't just trade him to trade him. Sorry, Hassan, if you're upset that you didn't get a new contract. He's their best defensive player by far. And if this is a team that you're trying to, if this is a team you believe is going to the Super Bowl, and the Eagles are being constructed like this is a Super Bowl team, then Hassan Reddick can't not be on this team for a 4th-round draft pick. Sorry.
So do you think there's any possibility he's back?
Sure. Yeah, it's a matter of what's available out there. If teams aren't interested in trading, if teams aren't interested in giving him a new contract, he's going to have to make a decision. Now, is he already at a point of no return where he says, no, I'm leaving. You're not giving me a new contract. I want to be traded. Look how mad Saquon Barkley was at the Giants. But part of the reason why I think he came to the Eagles, it's a vindictive move. He wants to shove it up the Giants' nose because they didn't pay him. And what better place to go than Philly? I don't know if Hassan's there, but if all else is equal, he should want to stay here. Look at the success he's had since he's been here. It's a high-profile team. So you stay on a good team. You stay on a team that's going to be in a lot of national TV games. You get your sacks. You go out in free agency last year, and you make your money.
And he's from here, grew up in Camden, went to Haddon Heights High School and all that. Yeah, and you mentioned the Barkley situation. That's why I'm not understanding fans, former players, Tiki Barber being one of them, who are hating on Saquon. What else did you want this guy to do? So he comes in, you draft him, he plays on his 4-year rookie deal. You exercise his 5th-year option, so he still doesn't get the big money. Then he wants a big deal. You still don't give it to him. You franchise tag him. Like, what did you want him to do? He gave you 6 years of his career, was a good soldier, played, never got the big money deal he wanted, and now you're mad that he went out and got paid? I just don't understand what else they wanted from that guy.
Yeah, I think it's the Eagles is what a lot of it is. Division rival. Because the talk was the Cowboys, Eagles, and it does feel like that he couldn't wait to go to the Eagles because the Giants weren't re-signing him. Well, guess what? Re-sign him.
And his daughter, man, is just killing the Giants right now.
I'll tell you what, the content the Eagles put out about the first 24 hours with Saquon was genius. It was great. It was great content to do that. Whoever's idea that was, it was a really good idea. But, I think that signing him for the Eagles makes a lot of sense. Jacksonville gave Gabe Davis similar money. Gabe freaking Davis. Who's going to have more of an impact on their team? Saquon Barkley or Gabe Davis? And from the Giants' standpoint, I wouldn't have resigned him either. Giants aren't ready to win right now.
Darnell Mooney got 3 years, $39 million.
Right.
You're right. It's because he's a running back that we have the issues. But you look at what these other guys are getting, and I'd rather pay Saquon.
Mooney or Saquon, who's going to have more impact on the Eagles? Go out and sign another wide receiver or Saquon Barkley. It's a need. So to me, it makes a lot of sense. And also from the Giants' perspective, he underperformed being the high draft pick that he was. He spent a lot of time injured. He also didn't have a very good team around him. He had Daniel Jones and he had a bad offensive line. So I think it makes sense for Saquon to leave. He wants to be paid. The Giants wouldn't pay him. And if I was the Giants, I wouldn't have paid him this year either. I would have let him walk. It burns because it was the Eagles. So I think that's from the Giants fans' perspective.
Yeah, and I am looking forward. You talk about no players around them. Barkley had only played with a 1,000-yard receiver once his entire career. It was his rookie season when they had Odell and Eli Manning. And that year, what's Barkley do? He has over 2,000 yards from scrimmage.
Yeah.
After that season, he's never played with a receiver that's had more than 750 yards. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. All right, let's do a little Phillies talk because we got opening day coming up on Thursday next week. Let me ask you, you think they can win the NL East?
No. 88 wins.
No.
Second or third wild card. No, they're not. They showed in the past it doesn't matter, but they're not during a regular season. I don't think it's a roster that can win 95, 100 games. The Braves have that roster. And the Braves also getting Chris Sale in the offseason. That may not end up working out, or it may end up working out to where that wins them a World Series, right? I mean, they have a great young core. They have a ton of talent. They have great starting pitching. And they added Chris Sale. And honestly, I wish the Phillies would have considered adding Chris Sale because I think they're a starting pitcher short.
Yeah, and hold on, John. I don't know what's going on in the chat the last couple of days, but they've been visceral with each other. What's going on? Yeah, everybody's fighting in my chat over the last couple of days. So come on. Clean it up. Clean it up, Flexen. Yeah, they're all attacking each other the last couple of days. I don't know what's going on in the chat. But anyway, so let me give you an argument as to why maybe they could win the NL East. You look at their start over the last 2 seasons, and it's been terrible. So you look at last year, they started 25-30, and then they played over 600 baseball the rest of the way out. If they do that, that's 98 wins. If they play 600 baseball the entire year, they get rid of that terrible start, 98 wins. You think 98 wins could do it? I mean, the Braves had 104 last year, but a lot of that was because they also played the Phillies a lot.
Right.
So
yeah.
Could 98 wins win the NL East?
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's the caveat to this whole conversation is if you come out hot, let's say, I don't know, the first 20 games, you're 14-6, 15-5, and then you're front running. Yeah, absolutely. This is still a good team. This is still a very good team. If their starting pitching stays healthy, Zach Wheeler is, I mean, man, you talk about a free agent signing from Matt Klentek, honestly. But
yeah, he didn't talk about but that was a good one.
Man, and you look at it, it's one of the best free agent signings in Phillies history, what he was able to do. So avoiding injury and things like that with Wheeler, because he's been healthy when he's been here, knock on wood. Aaron Nola, I think they're a starting pitcher short. But, like, hey, listen, you never know. Taijuan Walker's also having another slow start to the spring. I don't know if he's going to be ready to start the season. That was a terrible signing, bringing him in here last offseason. So, yeah, they start healthy. Aaron Nola gets on a roll. I'll still say it again. This offense needs to be cooking because they have good starting pitching. They have one of the best deepest 5 rotations that they have, but this offense needs to be the offense that we saw at times last year.
So with that being said, that the offense needs to get cooking, what do you think about Johan Rojas being in your starting lineup?
I mean, it was probably his job to win, and it feels like right now it's going to be more of a platoon situation than anything. We were talking about with the Eagles, the adjustments that were made in the league towards Jalen Hurts and really towards the Eagles offense, like, hey, let's blitz them and let them make an adjustment. And the Eagles didn't make an adjustment. You see it all the time in sports. And it was magnified in the postseason last year with Johan Rojas. And they're saying, oh, let's see how you get him out. And he was a non-factor at the plate. Regular season's a little bit different, but they're going to use that same strategy whenever he's coming up to the plate because he was flailing at everything that was outside of the strike zone. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see some Whit Merrifield in left field and Brandon Marsh back in center field. I like platoons. I like when you don't necessarily have the same 3 guys out there. So Schwarber may get a start occasionally in left field, but you'll use Marsh, you'll use Whit Merrifield. And guess what? If Rojas is up there and he's hitting, then you don't need to worry about it because you can put him out there every day. But I do think that they have some backup plans to not play him every day. So I think he's like a part-time starter, depending on how he plays.
Yeah, I know there's some people saying, hey, start him out in AAA. I don't want to see them do that. I'd like them to be on this roster, but we'll find out. Hey, I mean, people make the argument he's so good in center field that it doesn't matter what he does at the plate. And I'm starting to agree with that only because you look around that lineup. If they're losing games and it comes down to Johan Rojas's bat.
Yeah, you got a problem.
Well, yeah. I mean, that means that Harper
it's not him,
and Turner and Schwarber and all these other guys that you're paying these big money to aren't producing. So I'm okay with it. All right,
and I agree with you with Rojas in center field. There's no reason why he can't bat 9th with the elite defense that he has. And I know they're talking about bunting and getting on base and bunting and everything else. He's still a developing player. It was not believed he was going to be in the majors and starting in the playoffs last year. He's not that long ago. He was single A and double A player.
Yeah.
So you can he's not under a lot of pressure to hit 9th. So I would keep him in the majors. And if he's really, really bad and he's proven that he can't hit major league pitching, you can always send him down. But I love the defense. I love the speed. The Phillies were a better team last year when he was in the lineup. So I'm giving him another shot once the season starts this year.
Yeah, so we're agreeing on that. I'll try to get some 4 for 4 in. We did some Eagles. We did some Phillies. Let's talk about the Sixers real quick. Joel Embiid has been back on the court, according to Nick Nurse. 1, do you think he's coming back? And 2, if he does come back, what do you think this team can do in the playoffs?
Yeah, he'll be back. This isn't a surprise at all. Embiid has shown in the past that he will come back when he's injured. The problem is, what does he look like when he comes back? big 7'2", 300 and some odd pound guys. They can come back, but he plays 20, 25 minutes a night. He gets gassed at the end. So he'll get in. I don't know how many games he's going to get before the playoffs start. The problem is if they're a play-in team, you only got, you got less than a month. You got like 3 weeks until the play-in games start. I think the playoffs would start on April 20th if they're not a play-in team. So being at least the 6th seed is probably a pretty big deal. But I don't see this team doing anything other than they've done in previous years. This team's not good enough. Maxi's kind of been inconsistent without Embiid. I still love Maxey, but he's been inconsistent. He's not carrying them every night.
You don't have faith in Tobias?
No. Tobias is what he is. And then, I like some of the additions. Buddy Hield's fine as a 3-point shooter. And, they're a losing the second round team right now, to me. That nothing's changed. Embiid, he's a great player. He's a great regular season player. Something kind of goes haywire in his head in the playoffs. So I don't see any reason to believe this team's anything but a second round exit team. And you know what? Maybe because of a matchup this year, they get lucky. I would love to see an Eastern Conference final from this team. I just don't think they're talented enough. There's no way they're beating Boston. They're not beating the Bucks. And I mean, you look at some of the other teams, Indiana, Cleveland, all these teams are pretty good this year too. Yeah. So I don't see any difference with the Sixers.
Yeah, the only hope that I'm holding on to is, look, if Embiid does come back and he could be some semblance of what he was before he got hurt, we've never seen him play with Buddy Hield and Kyle Lowry and even really Kelly Oubre, because he had that whole where he got hit by a bike thing that happened.
Allegedly.
Yeah. So is there a possibility this team can gel quickly? I know it's a big if, but that's all I'm holding on to. Run out of time, so let's make sure we get that 4 for 4 in real quick. Couturier benched the last 2 games by John Tortorella.
How about that?
What do you think about that?
I was just actually on my YouTube show at night. Delco Steve, my producer and co-host, was filling me in that Tortorella obviously not a big fan. Man, I don't know what to say. I wonder if the organization and Tortorella are on the same page with all of this, because in modern day sports 2024, if the coach and the front office isn't on the same page, then it's over. Yeah. Right? Like you need to be on the same page with the organization. So I don't know. I don't know if it's a Tortorella thing where he just doesn't like them or he's at odds with the organization. I don't know.
I've been saying on the show, this is what you get with Tortorella, right? I mean, this is how he is. Correct. But at the same time, you could have done this differently to not embarrass your captain. And it's not as if Couturier doesn't give it his all. Like, if he's just not playing up to the ability you want him to play, you could have figured out another way to sit him down without embarrassing him. It's not like the guy is out there, going through the motions or not practicing hard. So that's what I didn't like about it, but we will see. What do you got planned this weekend, my brother? Anything good?
What do I have planned this weekend?
More laundry?
Easter egg hunt tomorrow night.
Oh, nice.
A 2-year-old's birthday before that. So that's about it, man. Watching. Yeah. I'm headed up to Parks Casino in a little bit. I'm going to watch some of the games up there. Check out their sports book up there. So I'm going to head up to there for a couple hours. Should be fun.
Awesome, my man. Well, it's always a pleasure when we get to hear from Johnny Marks again. Hopefully we'll be hearing from you a lot more in the future. I know maybe you got some things in the works, so keep us updated. Keep us updated, my man.
We'll do that. Thanks, Bill.
All right, have a good weekend, brother. Johnny Marks joining the show. Always fun to be able to talk to John. I know a lot of people miss hearing him every day on the radio. I do. So good to see him. But a little today in sports history, the way we end every Philly Sports Power Hour. March 22nd, 1989. NFL Commissioner Pete Rozelle announced that he would be retiring after 29 years on the job. He officially retired November 5th, 1989. But on March 22nd, 1989, Pete Rozelle announced he would be retiring after 29 years, and the NFL saw explosive growth. Explosive growth under Pete Rozelle. They went from 12 teams to 28 teams. He created Monday Night Football. He oversaw the 1970 AFL-NFL merger. He created the Super Bowl. I could not even read his other highlights and just say he created the Super Bowl, and you would know Pete Rozelle had a huge successful career as commissioner. He expanded the schedule from 12 games to 16 games, and he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1985. He was then succeeded by Paul Tagliabue. Man, that's a tough one to say. Paul Tagliabue. I've always said it and heard it in my head, but I never say it out loud. Paul Tagliabue. Anyway, and then Tagliabue, when he retired, he went over to Roger Goodell. And I see Transistor Zen, not a fan of Roger Goodell. But Pete Rozelle was a good commissioner. And look, a lot of times the commissioners, that's where we direct all of our hate. But even Goodell, you got to say, if you're an NFL owner, you're pretty happy with Roger Goodell. I mean, the revenue was at an all-time high. The NFL has never been more popular than it is right now. And now with all the streaming services and all that freaking money they're bringing in. So, but March 22nd, 1989, NFL Commissioner Pete Rozelle announced his retirement after 29 years. Appreciate everybody here for the Power Hour. Check me out this weekend on 97.5 The Fanatic, 9 to 12, Saturday and Sunday in the morning. Hope everybody has a great weekend. Hit that like button on your way out. Make sure you are subscribed to the JAKIB Sports Network, Bill Colarulo Philly Sports Talk, and I'll see everybody on Monday. Have a great weekend.